All right, fantastic. So welcome. My name is Nicole Kittredge. For the folks that aren't familiar with me, it's a pleasure to meet you. Today, I am thrilled to have Andy Joyce join us again. We have done this webinar in the past. It's always well received. And we were just talking before we started the meeting here about how this information, Andy mentioned the word fire hose, can be like a lot all at once. So we welcome questions. I personally have used Andy for years, and he takes patience. I should say you require patience because I ask you the same questions over and over, and you're so kind and you explain it to me in layman's terms until I understand it. And it's nice to feel calm in a crazy market and know that just like with real estate, they say buying a house is a great long-term investment as long as you take care of it. Statistically, it's almost like a forced savings plan. So just like your personal investments, if you work with the right advisor, even when the market goes down, you can feel confident knowing that you still have a good solid plan in place. So hopefully that was a good introduction for you, Andy. I'll let you take it away and you can tell us a little more.
That was awesome. Thank you very much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you letting everybody know that I do take the time to slow things down when it's actual client to client, because yes, we're going to go for 25 minutes. I'm going to provide as much financial planning 101 information as possible in that 25 minutes and I have a few left over for questions. So yeah, I appreciate you putting out the forewarning there. So without further ado, I'll get my presentation started here and we'll dive right in. Last time we spent some time, I believe on investment kind of topics, and today I wanted to take a step back and focus more on the financial planning end, because no matter what you're doing, like Nicole said, whether it's buying real estate, looking at your 401k, buying your first house, an investment property, wanting to vacation more, it all comes back to a financial plan, right? Anything really that has a dollar sign associated with it does, right? Because where we're at, we all have one thing in common. We have a resource allocation issue. We all share in common that we have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of money to work with to achieve our goals, right? We can't predict the time we have left. All we have is to work with what we've got. And then we can't control how little or how much money we have. We can continue working, saving, investing, so on and so forth. But even if you have $100,000 to your name or $1 billion, you still have a cap. You still have a limited amount of resources. So how do you maximize what you're doing with those resources? So in our time today, we're going to talk about what financial planning is. What are the steps involved in putting together a holistic financial plan? What are the components? What are the topics that should be covered in every financial plan? And then finally, a really quick breeze of what financial planning looks like. It is both a noun and a verb. It's a thing, but more in action. It's more an ongoing coaching relationship, as you'll see. So if you go to the Certified Financial Planner website, you can find the definition of financial planning. And basically, it's the collaborative process that helps maximize a person's potential for meeting life goals through financial advice given their personal and financial circumstances. Sounds good in less words, in layman terms. It's personalized financial coaching, right? That's what financial planning is. Right? If you're somebody who wants to get their diet straight, you might hire a dietitian. If you're somebody who is in a triathlon, you might hire a personal trainer. You want to improve your golf game, you hire a golf coach. You want to be more efficient and better manage your finances and reach the next level, you hire a financial planner or a financial coach, right? We do fee-based financial planning, which I'll kind of get into more at the end, the difference between what's out there. Now, what we're looking at here is, if anyone's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it can be applied to your finances too, right? There's a lot of different stages of financial planning, and you're going to grow throughout these different financial life cycles. Our job as financial planners is to meet our clients where they are and then help carry you to the next level, whatever that level may be, right? You can be a sophisticated accredited investor with millions of dollars to your name, or just getting out of school and just wanting to make sure you're getting the right habits lined up. A financial planner can help you coach you through that. Now, the needs are, right, level one is we need to worry about our safety, our baseline needs, right? So basically, food, shelter, stuff like that, before we even care about level 2, which is developing deep, long-lasting relationships, finding love, and all that kind of stuff, a purpose, right, if you will. And then once you take care of level 2, you jump up to that level 3 where you're looking for your own meaning of life, purpose, fulfillment, all that stuff. As far as finances are concerned, level 1 is really understanding the baseline foundational stuff about your financial life, right? What do you have? Where do you have it? What are your expenses? What are your income? How much are you saving into 401k? How much are you saving into regular investments? What do you have in property? What do you have in insurance, right? It's an understanding of where you're at so you can be comfortable with the decisions that you're going to need to make to hit your goals, right? Hitting goals is level 2. You might want to buy a house. You might want to travel. You might want to retire early. You might want to help your parents through their retirement. We hear it all, right? You might want to donate a bunch to charity. Whatever those goals are, it's the planner's job, the coach's job to help you obtain those in the most efficient and practical manner, right? And as you grow through your financial hierarchy of needs, right, you're going to start ticking off goals, hitting those goals, living those goals, and then you might find you're retiring, you have more than you need to continue that lifestyle. Maybe it matters for you to leave a legacy to a charity, to children, to grant, or whatever the case may be. And a financial planner will help guide you through that. So let's look at that process and what that entails. Step 1, we've kind of talked about it. It's that foundational part. It's understanding where you are at today. What do you have? Where do you have it? And where do you want to go? It's really hard to get to Canada if I don't know where I am in the first place, right? So you have to take the time to take a step back, detach, and evaluate what we've got, right? From there, we gather the information, like we said, and then we're moving on to the analysis. So we gather the information, we gather the goals, and part of our job is helping you prioritize those goals, right? Prioritize and execute. There's that old saying I think we've all heard, at least if any of us. I'm now a new parent, like Nicole said, but we've probably heard you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. So part of our job, again, is prioritizing those goals. You might have 3, you might have 10, right? Then which ones are most important to you? How do we develop a roadmap to get there, right? And if there's any gaps in those goals, what are some strategies that we could potentially implement to help fill those gaps? We're also going to stress test, right, your projections. We're going to look at what if the market throws a bear market at you, right, as you're looking to retire, right? What happens if there's crazy inflation, right? There's been, if you're retiring, most of us don't want to be retired for 5 years. The idea is to have like a whole nother chunk of life in retirement, which means hopefully a couple of decades. There are decades where you had an average of 7 to 8% of inflation. Look at the 70s, right? We've just had 1 year of it. We're already like, whoa, this is crazy, right? It behooves us to prepare for the things that we cannot control. There are things that are within our control, our behaviors, our actions, and how we structure our plan. And there are things that are outside of our control, the economics, the taxes, the geopolitical risks. So it behooves us to put together that plan, right? It is not necessarily exactly what's going to happen, but it gives you the flexibility to be able to adapt as the situation changes around you with a minimal amount of stress because it has a fallback plan, right? Then we get into step 4, which is the implementation stage. This one has an asterisk because you'll see that the financial planner that you're working with, you're being charged for the advice. There are 2 components really to this. When you're getting charged for the advice, the implementation phase might involve managing retirement investments. It might involve buying life insurance or long-term care insurance, or just insert your thing here, right? There are certain products that are involved in financial planning, homeowners insurance, right? Umbrella insurance that when sold, when placed, when bought, generates a commission to the agent. The reason that there's a star here is when working with a financial planner on a fee-based basis, you have no obligation to implement those recommendations with that advisor. So if I say, hey, you should buy $1 million of term life insurance, great, my niece just got into the business, I wanna buy it through her. Awesome, like buy it through her. I'm gonna call you and be your accountability buddy, make sure you did it. But go get that done, right? And then the niece is gonna get the commission for that. Now, if you buy it through the financial planner you did the plan with, they're also going to get a commission for that business. So just be aware of that type of stuff. It's not a good or a bad thing, but that's involved in the implementation strategy. And then what separates financial planning from just some sort of needs analysis that goes stale the second that you print it is kind of what Nicole said in the intro, the ongoing monitoring, the ongoing coaching, right? Tiger Woods has a coach. Tom Brady has a coach. I would argue that Tiger Woods knows how to swing a golf club. I would argue that Tom Brady knows how to throw a football a lot better than the rest of us, right? Why do they, but they still have a coach. They're professionals. They make millions of dollars because they understand the value that the coach brings to their noodle. It helps them understand it, helps them get through the tougher times, the slumps that we eventually experience, right? So monitoring is what separates it from. So what are the components of a financial plan? There are 6 major topics that every financial plan should consider, should have, right? The first we've kind of gone over, it's the general principles and foundational strategies, right? How much do I have an emergency fund? Do I have my health insurance? Understanding your cash flow, right? And cash flow means, yes, how much is coming in, but also taking a step back and an honest look at your expenses. It's my client's least favorite exercise, but it's absolutely essential in putting together accurate projections, right? We got to understand what the cash flow is, what's going in, what's going out, judgment-free zone, but you need to know where the cash flow is going, or at least what the dollar amounts are, so that we can make recommendations, right? The second tier is risk management. So this is basically anything insurance or protection-based. Property and casualty, life insurance, disability, long-term care, that type of stuff that we mentioned. Any insurance or outside risk that we can't control necessarily, we're going to look at the risk management, review those documents for you, and provide guidance if there's any gaps. The third is taxation planning. Now, I'm not a CPA. I can't do your taxes or anything like that, right? We're not here to replace any relationships that you already have. The financial planner kind of serves as the financial quarterback. We're part of your financial squad. We're not replacing anybody, right? So we're going to help identify not only opportunities to benefit from the tax code today, but we want to make sure that we're structuring ourselves to be able to be flexible for any tax environment in the future. Most of the clients that I talk to right now have the feeling that taxes are probably going to go up in the future, just given the amount of stimulus that was pumped into the economy, not to mention the Trump tax bill is going to just expire by nature of the bill. So we're going to reverberate at least back to where we were. So it might make sense to plan for where taxes could go, which we don't know, up or down in the future. We want to structure ourselves for today and tomorrow. The fourth is an investment planning, right? Looking at the investments that you have, looking at how they're allocated as far as stocks, bonds, alternative investments, real estate, and providing guidance from a as does that align with my risk tolerance and my time horizon and my goals, right? And how is that going to ultimately turn into cash flow for me to benefit from? Because that parlays into part 5, which is retirement planning. Retirement actually is my least favorite word in the industry because I think it carries a lot of weird connotations to it. I prefer financial independence. I bumped heads with my own dad because he's been able to retire financially for 3 or 4 years, but he was waiting until he was full retirement age for Social Security. It's just a numbers game, right? It's a numbers game and an emotional game. And I'll get to that in a second. You need to be ready financially and emotionally for this transition. It's definitely one of the biggest transitions that you would make into financial independence, is what I like to call it, which is basically, maybe I don't want to stop working. Maybe I really like what I do because I spent 20 years doing it. Now I'm really good at it. You want me to stop doing what I'm really good at? Like, come on. It's ridiculous. So I want to do a little less. I want to travel more. It's good to know that you don't need to work as much to make it happen. And God forbid you have a stroke or something like that, that you could pare back and be okay, right? So I prefer financial independence to retirement, but again, that's my own flavor. And then last, the 6th part is estate planning, right? We'll review your will, the power of attorney, healthcare proxy. Again, I know Nicole had Mike Gorman on. He did an awesome presentation about estate planning 101. We're not replacing the estate planner. We know enough to be dangerous. We have estate planning attorneys on staff who can review your documents as part of the financial planning fee, but they can't draft them. We can only make recommendations that you would take to your existing relationship, or if you don't have one, we can certainly help you find somebody who is qualified to take care of that for you. We also do financial plans for businesses, but for the sake of time today, I'm focusing just on the personal end, but just know any business can have a financial plan put together for it as well. So we've covered a couple of the topics. I want to spend a little time on some of the higher level ones to give you a couple of examples. And the first is retirement planning. Again, financial independence planning, I prefer. But Transamerica did this survey back in 2018. They interviewed just a bunch of different generations of workers. You know, what do you want that to look like, that financial independence, if you will? And most said travel, spend more time with family, and pursue hobbies, right? Kind of makes sense. We're working. What's the why? What's the why behind why we're working so hard and saving so much and investing and putting up with bear markets, even though it hurts and stinks to see your money go? Like, why are we putting ourselves through this? Right? It's because there's a means to the end. We want to enjoy more time doing what we want to do, whatever that is, right? I also get kind of a kick that, you know, travel is higher than family. I wonder how they calculated this, but I rather travel than spend my time with my family. I don't think that's how it works, but I just got to chuckle about that. Anyway, there are different retirement income sources. What I mentioned before about having the transition into retirement, right? I remember when Lennon was born last year, it was both the most amazing moment of my life, yet also most terrifying. And I think anybody who is a parent can kind of relate to that, because you're like, whoa, I need to make sure she lives and is taken care of. And this is a wild responsibility. It's anxiety inducing, but in a good way, right? And I see my clients who are making that shift from working to actually retiring, going through those exact same emotions. And that's what I meant earlier about it's not just a financial thing. The financial hurdle is the first one, knowing that you can do it and make changes and call audibles if things change around you. But then it's the emotional part. What am I going to do? How am I going to spend my time, right? How do I want this to look for the rest of my life, right? And we're transitioning the responsibility of that income generating machine, which is us, for our families, right? We're transferring that responsibility to other income generating assets and other investments. Pretty stressful, right? Unless you do it every day for work. It's quite the endeavor. But once our clients get across that bridge, that anxiety, rickety bridge of transitioning into retirement, they've kind of reached that promised land if they've done the planning and can feel comfortable with it, right? So there are different types of income sources. There's Social Security, pension plans. Those are getting more and more rare, right? Annuities are a way to provide lifetime income, laddering bonds, a lot of different ways to structure income. And most of our clients like to assign a fixed amount of income to their fixed needed expenses, right? So at least worst case scenario, my expenses are covered, right? And that can be tricky because pension plans, again, more and more rare. And Social Security, right? If you're on Social Security, fine, right? If you're close to retirement, maybe you'll experience some sort of reduction. But I highly encourage most of my clients that are under 40, under 45, just to take a look. What's it look like with half Social Security projection? What's it look like with none, right? We want to make sure that we are planning for any possible scenario, given the shape that that system is just currently in, which is a whole nother topic. Not doom and gloom, but just a whole nother topic. And then we structure our investments to kind of take care of the rest, those wants, the travel, the fun stuff. Which your other stuff, it could be real estate income, could be alimony income, it could be business income that you sold, it could be money from your 401ks, Roths, right? There's a lot of different ways to structure an income generating machine, if you will. Three main risks, right? We want our money to last longer than we are. We do not want our money to die before us, right? We need to make sure that we have this to take care of us. Number one is longevity, right? So if you're a couple 65 years old, there's a 72% chance that one of you makes it to 90, right? 89% chance that at least one of you makes it to 85. So it behooves us to account for inflation over a long period of time, right? Just a 2.5 compound inflation rate resulted in almost a doubling of prices over an 18-year period from 1990 to 2018. Right? I mentioned before that the 70s, you saw compounded inflation over a 10-year period of 7%, right? That's a doubling of prices in like 11 years. Very, very fast, right? So we need to plan for the fact that things in this country, the prices of them tend to go up over time. And yes, cash is safe as far as paper value is concerned. But if you have money in the bank and compounded 8% inflation, and the bank will have the most generous bank going right now, given 1%, well, you're still losing 7% per year of purchasing power, right? So inflation is a key factor. And then we mentioned the taxation of your assets. We want to diversify our investments. We want to diversify our income streams. We want to diversify the taxation of those buckets. And there's three main buckets. There's taxable investments. You put money in the bank, generates interest. That 0.5%, that's taxable to you, right? You have an investment account, Robinhood, Fidelity, et cetera, and you hold the positions for more than a year and you sell and you have gains, you're going to pay capital gains tax. Tax-deferred investments. Tax-deferred investments like your 401k. This is not a tax write-off. This is a tax deferral, right? We don't get taxed on the income in this tax year. It's not taxed while it grows. And as long as we take it out after age 59 and a half in an IRA, it's going to be taxed as ordinary income when we take it out. So it's tax deferral. We're going to pay the taxes someday. And then tax-free investments are those that we've paid the taxes and it will grow tax-free and come out of that bucket tax-free if we do it right. You'll notice that tax-free slice has the most asterisks next to it, right? There's Roth 401k, Roth 403b, Roth IRA, municipal bonds, cash value of life insurance policies. All is structured appropriately, all coming with a bunch of different rules. Could be tax-free. So again, another reason to work with a financial advisor, financial planner, to help understand which of these is right given your circumstances. That last chunk, protection planning, again, you come at it from a high level. We're jumping out of a plane at 30,000 feet, and then we kind of attack each one of these topics under a microscope, right? So not only are we going to help you figure out what the appropriate amount of these insurances should be, we're going to review the existing work that you've done. And if there's gaps, we're going to educate you on what's out there to help you get the right flavor for a year, right? There's gluten-free, there's soy, there's orange flavored, all this stuff, right? I need life insurance. Great. You need term, whole life, universal life, variable, indexed, combo with long-term care. There's so much stuff out there. It behooves us to figure out what those goals are so we can help siphon down what the appropriate strategy is for our given situation, right? And then we're going to review those estate planning documents, help you fill in any gaps, make sure you've got your healthcare proxy, durable power of attorney, link you up with an estate planning attorney if you don't already have one. And finally, make sure that you have beneficiaries assigned. If you don't take anything else away from this call, you take this away. You make sure you have beneficiaries assigned to any account that you reasonably can. In retirement accounts, you assign beneficiaries. Bank accounts, you assign POD, payable on death. Investment accounts, transfer on death, TOD. Make sure that you're putting beneficiaries on your accounts and reviewing them frequently. So that wraps up the presentation part that I had. I can transition it over to you, Nicole, see if there's any questions. And if there's a couple of extra minutes, I can certainly show an example of like what
I think we can leave it just the way it is. You can leave your contact information there if you'd like. Oh, we know how to find you. So I have a question.
Sure.
The Roth IRA said tax-free life insurance cash value. They're tax-free because it's money that you're purchasing or investing in those items that you already paid taxes on. So it's just when you take the money out, that means it's cash-free?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
There's an order of operations. The government,
Right.
The IRS is going to pay their taxes at some point, right? So if you have $1 million in a 401k, on paper it says that you have $1 million, but that's not all yours, right?
Right.
A chunk of going to go to the government.
That's important to think about, right? Because people look at their
Correct.
401ks, but that's taxable.
Correct. Whereas if you paid your taxes and were investing in a Roth IRA, if you could, and had $1 million in a Roth IRA, every dollar you take out is tax-free. It doesn't even hit your tax return, right? You can Google Peter $5 billion Roth, which is quite the story. But he was an early investor in Facebook and did it in a Roth manner somehow. He did a lot of backdoor Roth conversions, and everything he takes out of that is going to be tax-free.
Now, don't you have to earn, like he had to earn that much money to put it in a Roth?
There are a lot of rules with Roth IRAs. You have to actually earn under a certain amount of money to be able to directly contribute to a Roth IRA. If you make over those Roth IRA thresholds, there are advanced strategies that you can do to do what are called Roth conversions. And Roth 401ks are also a new thing. If you have a 401k where you work, you should ask and inquire if you have the Roth 401k. There are no income limits on Roth 401ks. If you do not have a 401k with Roth 401k, highly urge your HR to get that thing reviewed and that provision added.
Awesome. I really love the tip about adding beneficiaries, because there's, even especially when beneficiaries change for people, I think that's just such a great reminder. I really liked your slide about, again, this goes back to me being a mortgage professional, having you on as a financial planner, and then we go back to talking about not a real estate attorney, an estate attorney to make sure you have your healthcare proxy, your HIPAA, all those folks set up. So I love that you tie all that together. Does anyone else have questions? If you want to unmute or raise your hand. Again, I realize that was a lot. Andy's always so passionate. And smart. Perfect. Well, we're going to work to get this recording posted with any luck. Feel free to reach out to myself or Andy anytime. I'm happy to connect you over to him, and hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay cool this weekend.
Thanks everyone for your, appreciate you carving it out in your busy afternoon. Thanks.